Welcome. Many of you know that I've got a medical problem that is forcing me to get rid of the collection that I've accumulated. So I want this chance to show the collection off before it gets broken up. First, like many of us, our wives don't allow radios in the house, so you can see there's no radios here, except for this one. She likes the looks of this as furniture, but it's a Scott 800E. One of the most underrated radios, I think, in radio collecting. As a Gerard record changer. I believe it's a 15-inch Jensen with a built-in tweeter. Motorized tune, push-button tuning. Just a great radio. This is one of the exceptions. My wife allows one radio in the family room, and this has a built-in record player, so I can play records. Sounds terrific, but it's a radio of the early 40s, late 30s, I don't know, 39, 41, somewhere in that neighborhood, and it's past the black dial era. So they're not very collectible either, but a very nice radio for listening. The office is kind of a mixture of radios allowed, not allowed, but this radio started everything. This is my my father-in-law's radio. My wife would have sat and listened to this when she was a kid. It's completely unrestored, and it'll always stay unrestored. This is another one of the most underrated radios because of its weight. This will weigh 80, 90 pounds, but it's a Scott Morrell radio from World War II, and for shortwave listening, tremendous radio. This is my radio room. This is the one room I'm allowed to do with whatever I do. My radio just cut out. Well, I'll explain this first. This radio is receiving off of a SSS transmitter, AM transmitter, that's hooked up to a satellite radio receiver. And every once in a while the modem will cut off and it's got to rebuffer and reload. So that's what happened. But I can go to any radio and turn it on, and it can receive the radio program I'm transmitting. I have some telephones. They're all wall mount because I don't have any room for anything on a table. This section right here are radiolas. I was fascinated with radiolas because the formation of RCA and the breakup of RCA is so important to radio history. And I was collecting more than this, but I started limiting it to just battery operated radiolas. I've got a junior, which are hard to find. This I bought from a collector called Lane Upton, Salt Lake City. Very famous collector. And these are working WD-11s, worth probably $100 each. This radio works. It's hooked up to an amplifier, playing through one of the radio speakers. This radio is hooked up to one of the radio speakers. This radio is just pristine, and it's all over 100% original. In fact, all these radios I have refinished. That one I refinished, and the little one on the table I refinished. But believe it or not, this is a flea market, CHRS flea market radio for $20. A Radiola 2, not that uncommon, extremely uncommon without having the face dinged up from the earphone that was stored in the door. Radiola 5, if you can get down and get a horizontal view of it, but it's both a receiver and a crystal radio. Kind of a strange thing, but the paint on this is false wood, painted over brass that has no primer on it. And it's so fragile it just about falls off. To find a Radiola 5 with wood with a finish like that. Extremely rare, and to find them with the top wood piece on it is unusual. Very nice radio. This is Scott Phantom. This was given to me by Phil Monago. The face and everything was missing, and I was able to pick up the escutcheons within a 2-week period on eBay. I've never seen those things for sale since. So the radio guys were with me on that. Since you're on your knees, this is a McMurdo 5. I think some people will argue that this is one of the best performing radios ever built. And that's probably because this was sold with an 18-inch Jensen, which sells today for somewhere in the neighborhood of $8,000 just for the speaker. But still, it is a terrific radio. John Stapleton helped me get this in good working order. This is my last radio I purchased. It's a one-of-a-kind. This was built from Atwater Kent components before they started making breadboards. You could buy the components and wire it any way you wanted. And Atwater Kent kind of stayed out of it because they didn't want to infringe on the patents of RCA. So this is a homemade radio. The cabinet, I really have questions on. It's very crude in places, and yet the workmanship on some places is very professional. So, and the idea that this fits so perfectly, was this cabinet built specifically for this, or was it repurposed? Don't know, never will know. Came from an estate in Maine. This is another one of my pride and joys. This is a Atwater Kent 10A. This I got from Bartley. It's beautiful condition. There's crazing on the finish, but it's the kind of patina that is attractive, and it shows that it's not been refinished because of the patina. Very nice. I got this home from Bart and plugged it into an RB in a speaker. Played right off the bat. It's never been well, there's no capacitors to recap, but never been touched. This Federal I also got from Bart. You can see on the wall I have some advertisements. You'll also notice I got a couple of things from Amos and Andy. Amos and Andy played a very important part in radio becoming popular for entertainment. A lot more than just a single radio program. Much more than Jack Benny, anything like that. It's a fascinating history that what these two guys did. The part, they say that they closed theaters or shut the movie down when the Amos and Andy show came on and broadcast it over the theater speakers, and then started the movie back up. They say you could walk down the street and listen to Amos and Andy and still walk down the street because every house had it on. This is a couple of Scott 15s. Scott cabinets are a little rare. They were built by a separate company, and they weren't necessarily, you bought a Scott receiver, you didn't necessarily buy the cabinet, so some of them are rare. These aren't exactly rare, but what's rare about these radios is the condition of the chrome. On Scott chrome is everything, and these are exceptional. This is the McMurdo 3. I just finished this speaker cabinet Saturday. It didn't come with the speaker, and the only thing I had to go by was this catalog picture. And since I knew the dimensions of the radio, I scaled everything here from the dimensions I knew the radio was with just a simple ratio. And I counted 111 different pieces of wood in that. There are 18 pieces of veneer cut on a 45-degree angle and then butt matched to form this herringbone effect. Okay, when I first started collecting radios, I was fascinated by helicopters because of all the knobs. And helicopters was a very popular short-wave radio in the 30s and 40s. It's not really considered a ham radio. There are models that hams like, but in general, they're general shortwave receivers, what they call communication receivers. This is a television that's hooked up to a little DVD that I can play. I've got Burns and Allen right now loaded into it. This is the most ionic radio, I think, in collecting. It's a Model 28, SX28. If anybody knows anything about ham radios or communications radio, they'll instantly recognize that radio. Get up here, there's some pretty rare radios. That's the first helicopters ever built, was built by Howard. It was before helicopters had their own plant. This is probably in the era of the second type of radio. There are some models, but this is the first Skyrider. This is the second Skyrider. This is the third. This is the fourth. And the 42 replaced the Skyrider, but is in the same class, but they never called it a Skyrider. One of the unique things about this collection is the condition. Some radios like this one, I swear, are new. I've been over and over this radio. I don't see any signs of restoration. There isn't a scratch on it. I believe it's brand new. Down here on the 42, it's all original, no recapping or anything because it's so original, and I own the matching speaker to it. But the unique thing is what they call the tilt base. I doubt if there's 6 of those in existence. I heard one back east sold at an auction for $800. I've only seen one other in all the times I've collected helicopters, and that was on the internet, of course. But even the guy that wrote the book on helicopters, I don't believe owns one because the picture of it in his book is a catalog picture. And everything else are his radios. So that's the extent of my collection. And as you can see, this is going to have to be broken up. It's going to be worse than putting your pet down. But it has to be done, and hopefully these radios end up in somebody else's collection that they appreciate as much as I have.
Smile.